day is it?
Financial Day.
It's Men's Health Thursday.
Is it? Men's Health.
And we're talking about
financial
finances, savings, investing, scary shit.
Getting your money right.
Getting everything right. Getting your investments right. Getting your
credit
prepared. Talking about credit. Talking about
retirement.
Talking about IRAs, Roths.
Traditional IRAs. Talking about stocks, investments.
Scary stuff that people don't usually touch on because it's icky.
Yeah. Well, if you don't have the information and you don't know what you're talking about, of course it can lead you through a mind. But with the person that we have today, he makes it all easy for you.
Definitely. And Raymond, you've been looking at yourself the whole damn time.
No, I'm looking at the camera.
This is the camera.
You know what? That's the camera.
Holy shit, Ray.
This is your guide. This is your help. This is like your quick notebook.
Absolutely. This is basically a fast-paced course for finance education as an individual, and you'll definitely get a lot of input from this. And as guests, we have my doppelgangers.
Doppelganger, your twin.
My twin.
So yeah, we meet that twin who's the dancing partner from the group. Oh man, this is exciting.
Yeah. Anyhow, with that said, we have a special guest, Ricardo Peters.
Yes, double R.
Great financial advisor. And hope you guys enjoy this show.
Back to life.
This guy.
Back to reality.
I'm cutting all this out. Today is our special guest, Ricardo Peters. He's a financial advisor. Ray, I know you and I have talked about this, that the Black community, we don't really touch on finance. We're kind of afraid of it. It's like the hidden boogeyman in our community.
Yeah, we prefer check cashing stations. We prefer not saving, not using banks.
So yeah. All these things we don't. And Ricardo's here. He's dedicating his time to teach us a little financial tips that we can use even at middle-aged men. Rick, would you please give us a little history of your background in finance so the people can understand where you're coming from?
My background in finance, I've worked for Sun City, for Sun Bank, Sun Trust. Worked there for a couple of years, then went to JP Morgan Chase, where I started off on the credit card side and then went into the banking as a personal banker, then a private client banker. Then I became a financial advisor. I was there for 10 years. And then I decided to open my own financial firm so that way I could kind of do what I've always been preaching and help educate people on financial literacy, especially people from a lower economic social status that don't have the opportunities that other, I'd say, people of non-color have, by having dad and mother and the knowledge of the stock market and how investments work, how credit works. So I felt like, opening up my own firm and teaching individuals how to not only how to grow their money, but also how to do it themselves, giving them that financial knowledge that is so lacked in, like you said, the Black and the brown communities.
Got you. What was finance something you want to pursue? What actually made you get into finance? Because I know it's not something, like you said, the Black community, the brown community doesn't really touch on. We all want to be rock stars, musicians.
We always want to be rich, but we don't know how to be rich.
Exactly. Or sports players.
Right.
Well, that's a very good question. So growing up, I mean, Reggie, you should know, I used to want to be an actor. And the reason I wanted to be an actor is because I love to entertain and, make people happy, When I decided to move to Arizona, I was going to move to California, but I was dating somebody that lived in Arizona. Mm-hmm. And I remember I met her in Florida when I was living back in Florida at a club. And as cliche as it sounds, it was like at her best friend's wedding. She was in town for her best friend's wedding. She was at a Caribbean club. And then when I met her, she was like, I asked her where she lived. She said, oh, I'm from Arizona. I'm like, people live there? Because it's a desert. I was like, I didn't know people could live. It's like 120 degrees. So we exchanged numbers, became friends. And then later on, because I was always planning to move to California to pursue acting, I decided to move to Arizona for a year and then go to California. I ended up liking it a lot here in Arizona. Saw that when I was as a banker, I was helping clients. I was taking these young individuals, teaching them about credit, teaching them about finance. And then within like 4 years, these same people come back and they graduate college and they're like, hey, I got $20,000 in the bank. I'm going to buy my first home. They're buying their first home with me and everything. So I'd watch these individuals. I was changing an individual. I was breaking a
mold?
Generational curse.
Oh,
I was teaching these kids how to break that generation curse and change their lives. So that's what made me really want to become a financial advisor, because I didn't know it. And what I tend to do, a lot of people like to focus on the things that they're strongest in and perfect it. And my thing is, you don't need to perfect what you're strong in. You need to go where you're weak is then. So a lot of people will, for example, they say, I don't want to be like my mom. I want to be like my dad. And they run away from them. But if you run away from what you are not trying to face, you will end up becoming it or running into it. So a lot of people become their parents.
Yeah.
So my thing is, I wanted to face, investments. I didn't understand the market. It's very ambiguous. They say that if the market's so scary, like they tell you on TV, why is the top 1% in it? It's because it's not. But they keep it ambiguous to keep the lead on top and the ones on the bottom on the bottom. And then you have the people in the middle that kind of understand it. So my thing is, I didn't understand it. And I always like to take something apart, and then put it back together. So that way I understand it to the fullest. One of my favorite quotes is from Albert Einstein. He said, if you're an expert in something, you should be able to explain it in the simplest form. And if you can't, then you don't really understand it yourself. And that speaks volumes to a lot of people in the professions that they're in, that sometimes people learn verbatim something, but they don't truly understand what they've learned, but they just speak what they learn. They speak in their jargon, whether it be a lawyer, whether it be a financial advisor, and so on and so forth, a scientist. You should be able to break something down in the simplest form. You should be able to explain your expertise to a fifth grader or and they should be able to understand it. You should be able to explain to a child. So yeah.
Why do you feel that the Black and brown community have a hard time with credit and with the stock market and things of that nature, finance?
I feel the reason is because, one, I think there's a disconnect. There's a lack of resources and understanding and knowledge. So, for example, it's kind of like that rich dad, poor dad thing. I mean, for example, what your father with my mother, like we grew up, with my stepdad, but more with my mom, what they've learned has been carried on. Like, for example, let's think about a family recipe, like we're from the Caribbean, we make for Thanksgiving, let's say macaroni pie, and that's something that's been passed on the way they make it, right? And you may have your own like family traditions or what have you, or something that a way of, like, for example, on Saturday mornings, Reggie probably does this to this day, where my mom used to wake up on Saturday morning, turn on Anita Baker, and we'd start cleaning the house. Saturday mornings is clear, you have to clean the house, top to bottom. It's something that's passed on. So these are the things that are being passed on to us: the food, the music, this kind of stuff. When we're not having that. Hey, do you know what credit is? Okay, let me explain what credit is. Credit is the bank is going to lend you money, and you have 30 days to repay this. If you don't repay this within this amount of times, you're going to be charged interest. Interest is the fee for using their money and not paying it back on time. You want to make sure that you borrow and pay back on time, so that later on you builds up your credit, because the country is built on credit, and this is how you get homes. This is how you get cars, because credit is power. We're taught cash is king, right? If you don't got the money for the car, you don't get the car. You got to save up the money to get the car.
Yeah.
You know, that's the things that we taught. And also we tend to idolize things that aren't real. Like growing up in a Black community, you either want to be a rap star, a ball player, Michael Jackson, you know what I mean? A gangster, because that's the stuff that's publicized in the media. So nobody's looking to be a doctor. No one's looking to be a financial advisor, a lawyer, because we don't believe we don't see that in ourselves. You know,
Right.
we think we look to be rich, and I want us to be wealthy. Rich is Shaq. Wealthy is the guy that writes Shaq the check. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a mentality that we have to break. It's something that we've been conformed to, brainwashed to believe. So I think if we have that knowledge, those resources, that's how we break that cultural and, like I said, generational like curse and from when it comes to wealth.
At what age do you think we should like teach children, our kids, about finances?
Immediately. You know, I think what happens is, you know, I think the minute that a kid can open up a savings account and you teach them that, you know, compound interest and simple interest, you know. So do you guys know what compound and simple interest is?
I know what it is.
Compound, yeah. And a simple interest, yeah.
So yeah, so simple
go ahead,
interest.
explain it to us. Go ahead, tell us.
So simple interest, you know, like, so example, so simple interest, you know, let's say you put
Money in the bank.
what 100.
Yeah, you put money in the bank and they get interest off of 1% interest off of it.
Right, but then you know, so it's simple. 1%. Let's say you put 1% for $100, right? Then that interest, simple interest, won't grow on top of that interest. You'll still, let's say if you leave $100 in there, let's say 10%. You have 10% from the $100 at $10 will just be another $10 the following year. Compound is where your money, the interest that now the following year, the 110, you're getting interest off 110 now instead of just $100. So compound interest is a way to grow your money. Teaching kids that putting money in the bank and having it grow. Well, back in the day, you know, savings accounts used to be like 5, 10, 15% or what have you. Now savings accounts don't pay anything. You know, that's just the luck of the draw. They don't pay anything, but there's other ways to grow your money. So teaching kids the importance of saving and paying yourself. So for example, a savings account, like I would tell a customer that says, "Oh, I don't have money to save," you know, when they come to my branch, and I'd say, even if you take $25 from your paycheck and put it into a savings account, do it, because what it does, it builds a habit of paying you. I'm going to pay myself before I pay my debtors, by everyone else. So it puts value in yourself. So you're paying yourself. So, and then when people say, "Oh, I put $25 in there, but I had to take it back out," I consider a savings account a bill. You know, treat your savings account like a bill. For example, who you guys got as your phone carrier? Verizon,
AT&T.
AT&T.
Okay, so let's say you pay AT&T $120 one month. Can you go back and say, "Hey, AT&T, can I get $25 back from that?"
No.
They'll look at you like you're crazy, right?
Right.
So treat your savings account as a bill. You pay it, you can't take it out. You know, and then when you get to a certain amount in your savings account, then it's time to move it to investments, and then keep a certain percent cash.
Kind of investments you're talking about, as far as CDs, or you're talking about as far as going into the market?
I'm talking about
IRAs.
So you should always, for example, I don't know if you guys could see this. I'll try, but let's see. So here you have 2 elevators, right? I don't know if can you guys see this or no?
We
kind of.
There we
It's a chicken scratch.
But you have 2. Let's say you have 2 elevators. Right?
Elevators.
Elevator 1, elevator 2. You're in the middle of an earthquake in California. Which elevator would you get on?
the one with 3 cords.
2. Yeah, 2.
1.
No, it's two, right? Two is the one with three.
This one?
The one on
Yeah,
your right
is that
hand.
one there?
And
There's more.
and why is that? Why is
Yeah,
that?
it's more secure. All right.
Yeah.
Because if one cable breaks, you have
Mhm.
two. This one breaks,
You're done.
right?
Yep.
So that's the same thing when it comes to your money. You want to have some money in cash, some in bonds, some in stocks. So you want to have it diversified. So it's not just one thing is the best thing to put it in, it's everything. It's just percentage wise, based on your goals, your time horizon, your age, um, how you're going to diversify how you're going to allocate that the amounts that go into where, with what
So-
category, what pocket.
So, what would you say to a middle-aged man that's just starting to get into finance? What would you tell them to start? Let's say if they're starting off and they can only donate maybe $80 to $100 a month. What would you tell them to do? How would you tell them to allocate that money? Where to put that money? You know, middle-aged man now. So we're talking about mid 30s, early 40s, probably.
So here's the thing with that question. You see, with that question, there's a lot of there's a lot of things that variations that need to be answered. Middle-aged man, okay, well, what's your debt to income? How much income are you bringing in? How much is your debt? So these are questions. What is the money being invested for? Is it for what's your horizon? Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? Is it retirement? What debt do you have? What other money do you have available right now? Are you working? I mean, does your job provide a 401k? Is your company giving you money on for your 401k? They match it. What's percentage? So there's a lot of variations. If you ever meet a financial advisor and you walk in there and you say, "Hey, this is how much money I have," and the advisor tells you, "Okay, yeah, I know what to put it in. I know exactly what to do," and they haven't even had a conversation with you and let you talk and speak your goals and what you want and what concerns you have, run, because that person's they only see money. They see dollar signs. So to your question, Reggie, every individual is an individual, and they have different concerns and different goals. So I can't say, to say in this podcast to do this, that, and a third, because then someone's going to follow that and be like, "Oh, I failed. Why did I fail?" And because it didn't match what their needs are. So it's got to be tailored to that person. But I would definitely say, generally speaking, if someone's middle-aged, they have no 401k. Let's say if the job offers a 401k, start investing in the 401k, the retirement. So 401k is one that's sponsored by their job. Invest in that, especially up into the point where the job matches. If the job's matching 5%, go ahead and put that 5%. That's free money. Also, make sure that they're making selections in that 401k, because there's a lot of choices on the 401k. Make sure they're making selections that are going to meet their goals and their needs. Also, put some money aside for savings. Like I said, you always want to make sure that your money's keeping up making money. A lot of people are afraid of investing, and because they don't understand the stock market. Do you guys kind of understand the stock market?
Yeah, to a degree. Yeah, I do the penny stocks, man.
People, when you explain the stock market, it seems the stock market seems very confusing, and it's really meant to be that way. But it's really the best way I could simplify the stock market is this: what is the biggest sales day of the year?
Isn't it Black Friday?
Yeah, I would say that. Yep.
Okay, Black Friday.
Yep.
And why is Black Friday out of every other sales day? Why is that so? Why is it so popular? Why is it so politicized? Why is it publicized so much?
I don't know.
Why are people lined up from the
Because they have the
door
biggest
after
deals.
Because of the deals.
Because of the deals that
but the deals. But why are people lined up?
Because they think they're getting. Why are they lined up?
Yeah, they literally from Thanksgiving table
because they think they're getting the savings, right? They're getting the big discounts.
But why don't they just go on Friday? Why are they lined up right after Thanksgiving dinner?
Because there's a shortage. There's a shortage of it.
Supply.
Yeah, supply and demand. There's shortage.
So then after somebody buys that, so let's say the PS5, they buy it from Best Buy. What do they end up doing with it?
Selling it.
For
profiting.
what?
selling it for they're putting it over the market, probably 2 times, 3 times what it was worth, making
Like
money.
eBay, right? They put on eBay,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then 3 weeks later, you go to Walmart and they're all on shelves for the regular price,
Yep.
right? And then the person on eBay that hauled out and put their thing over budget, what happens to the price on the one on eBay?
It goes down now.
But where does it go down to now?
To the market price.
To the market price, yeah.
Or lower, because they
Yeah.
now, I mean, they can get it in the store. Why would I
Yeah.
get it from you if I get it
Yeah.
from the store? So they have to go
Yeah, it's
below
true,
that,
yeah.
that store.
Yeah.
Okay. So now think of now picture walking to Walmart and seeing Apple company, seeing Tesla, and you're seeing boxes on the shelves, right?
Yeah.
And then you see, so think about the same thing, supply and demand. So the only difference with the stock market is that you're buying shares of the company.
Okay.
So it's the same thought process. So you buy shares of the company because everyone thinks, oh, I could buy this infinite amount of shares. No, it's a finite amount of shares. That means that let's say Apple only has 200 million shares, right? For example. Then some good news comes about Apple. Now the people who have got there's the initial public offering, the IPO.
Mhm.
So you have an initial public offering, and then everything else is being sold on second market, which is eBay, basically the eBay, the market. And that's when people list their price. Like now Apple's hot. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and list my Apple for 160 a share. And then somebody goes, you know what? Somebody goes, I'll bid. I'll buy it for 155. And then finally, the person, the auction thing goes and matches and puts a deal, and it's they agree on 157. That's how the market works. It's an auction, basically, supply and demand. Now, for example, when Apple had the bad news, right, about the batteries, you guys remember that? Their batteries, what happened to Apple stock? It went down. Why? Because people who owned it sold it. So now there was a flood of supply. Just pretending like you're in a store, you see a bunch of things on Apple.
Yeah.
Then what's going to happen? They're going to drop their price because they want to get it off the shelves. So people flooded the market back with Apple, and you could buy Apple $100 cheaper. It was at 2 something, it dropped down to 160 something, and that's how the market works. So I would say people who are first time investors, invest in what you know. You like Nike, buy Nike. Don't just buy the sneaker, buy the stock. You believe in Samsung, buy the stock. You know what I mean? Invest, be an owner in that company.
Right.
Not just a consumer.
Right, because you buy stocks. So for example, a stock, when somebody does an initial public offering, they're putting their money, they put it public so people could buy into it, because then they could take that money and then they could pay CEOs. They could buy like, let's say Apple wants to do a new iPhone 30, right? Or for example, so they do what is called they want to do credit. They want to borrow, so they do borrow in the form of a bond. You guys have heard of bonds, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so basically a bond is Apple says, okay, Ray, you give me $10,000, I'll give you 4%. 4% on $10,000 for the next 10 years, and I'll give you back your $10,000, right?
Okay.
So when Apple does that, they're not giving up control of the company or shares. They're borrowing money from you, and they're gonna pay you interest. The only thing about that is if Apple goes bankrupt, you may lose the money, right? Because that's the part of the deal. You made a deal with them. Now, let's say Apple says, you know what? I don't want to give up ownership or pay a debt. Let's just go ahead and do a second public offering, which they did, like they split stocks or what have you. And let's go and have people invest and buy into our company. That way we could take the money and invest in our new product. And if we have a great year, we'll pay what we call dividends back to our shareholders.
Right.
So you buy now, the only reason you're buying stock Apple is because, let's say you bought it at 160. Now, let's say Apple in a year goes to 260, which it had happened before. Now that $100 gain, which is called growth, is also just like with your home. If you bought a home at 160 and now it's 260, what is that called? That difference? What do we call it?
We call it crap. Don't say the word, bro. I know it.
It's a trick question.
No, it's not another
I'm
word.
just
It's called the
messing
no.
with
Dang it, man! It's the
It's
I
called
word.
it's called
No.
the E word,
Oh,
equity.
yeah,
you.
equity.
Equity.
Yeah,
Okay.
equity in the
So
house. Yeah.
so they call stocks the growth. They call it a growth product, and they call it
Mhm.
equity
Okay.
because that growth between it is the equity. So called stocks equities. They call bonds income, income product or bond. They call it a bonds income because they pay you interest. So stocks are known as equity, bonds are known as income.
Mm.
What are your thoughts on
What's that?
Cash App, Doe, um, Robinhood of investing that way?
Well, Cash App is just exchange of money, but I
Yeah.
know that like Robinhood. So the thing, my problem with Robinhood is that when you invest in Robinhood, and let's say you want to buy Apple, Robinhood's going to suggest the price to you. It's not going to let you suggest the price, and a lot of people don't realize that you could when you're using like like let's say a Charles Schwab or
E
what's
Trade.
another one,
E
E
Trade.
Trade.
Mm-hmm.
You could it's called you put market limit. A market limit is you listing what you want to buy it for.
Right.
Market, if you're buying it at market is the price that, let's say, somebody put the price. Let's say it's at 160, and then somebody's like, I'm selling for 170. That's the thing that pops up. You're gonna buy it for 170 instead of putting, I want to buy it for 155, and then you might have somebody want to sell it and get rid of it at 155, and then it can match. What Robinhood does is sometimes they list it over that because they keep that extra. They're taking That's why it's free, because they're taking that
Mm.
extra fluff that they're listing. So let's say if it's at 160, they put 165 and keep the $5. That's why I don't like Robinhood, because they overinflate the cost when they don't let you decide. So I don't like Robinhood for that.
Gotcha.
But like I said, the E Trade, the Charles Schwab, um, so a lot of banking firms have certain ways you could buy stock from their own platform too.
Mm-hmm.
So just
What do you
depending.
What do you suggest for people who, let's just say, who are not uh, aware of any kind of financial information? You suggest just going to YouTube or finding a financial advisor, or what do you suggest for that?
That's a very good question, and I suggest all of that. I mean, quite honestly, we are in a day and age. I always say this to Reggie and my brothers, that I wish I grew up in the YouTube era.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I would like nowadays. Like, I mean, you could learn to code, you could learn to play basketball. I mean,
Yep.
I would be like, I could have been like the ultimate athlete because you don't even need a coach because of YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
We're at the age where um, this information right at our fingertips. There's not an excuse for somebody to say I'm not good at something, unless the only excuse I accept is because I choose not to be. Um, because anything else is just pure ignorance. If you don't take the time to invest in you, then everything else is pointless. Then it shows you how much you value yourself, because and how you value everything else. So my advice, take financial, planning or what have you courses. There's books you can read. There's so much, like I said, you can Google things. Sit with a financial advisor, because the thing about it is that old saying, those who can't teach, and those who can't do. But there's some advisors who, you know pick their brains, because a lot of them just learn verbatimly, and they don't understand their own product sometimes that they're offering. So not all financial advisors are
Created
it.
equal.
They're not it. You're going to find the ones that are passionate about what they do, and the ones that are willing to teach, who are willing to educate. That's the one you want to work with. You want to work with an advisor that is kind of like that ideal mentor boss, that they don't want to keep you with them. They want you to not need them. They want you to leave them. You know what I mean? Like, I want to teach them. I teach my clients. Every time I put my clients in something, I explain why, I explain what they're in, I explain my process, and then they get confident, so that they don't need me to do it. Because at the end of the day, I'm not going to be your financial advisor forever, or someone else is going to need more hand holding, and I want you to be self-sufficient, and still you could still, feel confident. And that builds confidence, because if you know that, hey, this guy's teaching me everything, or this person, woman or man is teaching me everything, and they're not being, very vague or ambiguous, you're going to be more confident in trusting with this guy with more assets if you come into more assets, or referring this person to, to family or what have you, family and friends.
What do you suggest for a person in this age and time where they have corona and they lose everything and then they want to start all over? And let's just, for example, they get a job. They were making at one time, let's say 90 grand a year, and then they have to get a job making $40,000 a year. How do they come back from that as far as their life? And they have a bunch of debt.
Okay. One, if they have a bunch of debt, definitely, well, it depends the kind of debt. I mean, debt that they have, because there's also ways to consolidate. There's ways that you can speak to the creditors, and you could pay, sometimes 33 cents on a dollar, and negotiate removing that debt. If the debt is too overwhelming, then they could file for bankruptcy. And I think a lot of debtors right now and creditors are very understanding because of the coronavirus. And it also, another thing comes down to is, well, let me ask you this question, you two, and then I'll explain this. Which one I'm gonna give you an example of two people, and you tell me which one is rich. Well, okay. One person makes $40,000 a year, the other person makes $1.4 million a year. Which one's rich?
Well,
1 point something.
Well, you can't really answer that question based on their income. It depends on their debt ratio, as far as if the person making 1.4, he puts out 1.5 million, he's broke. Versus the person
Exactly.
who makes 40 grand, he might live under his means.
Exactly. So that answers your question that you asked me before too. So let me finish the answer. Like you said, good job, Ray, because the person that makes 1.4, his debt is 2 million a year. The one who makes 40,000, he lives off of 15,000 a year. So you see what I'm saying? Because living below your means, you don't have to make millions to be rich, but living significantly below your means,
Yep.
you could still be significantly wealthy because you have a surplus of cash. So to go back to what you're saying, this person went from 90 to 40, like I said, speaking to creditors, having them work for you and work with you. And then if that doesn't work, like I said, looking towards bankruptcy, and then starting to live below that means. Right now you're making 40. If you're canceling some of that debt or negotiating some of that debt, it's going to be a lot easier to get out of that hole, opposed to, trying to take care of all that debt at one time. It's having a plan, not being overwhelmed. And at the end of the day, it's going to hurt, but do I pay my credit card bill or pay my light and my food or whatever? So it's sometimes it's hard, but you have to make it. I'll have bad credit for a little bit because that could always be fixed, but having the lights, having your car paid for, the things the necessities. I need a car to go to work. I'm going to have to take care of the car to go to work. I need a roof on me. I'm going to have to pay that. So that's when it comes down to having a plan, knowing that what you're going through, you're going to get through. What you go through, you grow through, right? Not being overwhelmed. And it takes a community, it takes a village, having friends and family. That's what I'd recommend, coming from that scenario, what you said, making 90 to 40, and then having a lot of debt. Just day by day. And like I said, start making a plan and living below your means until you get out that financial deficit, and then know that once the economy picks back up, maybe reapplying and getting a job somewhere else, because it is going to pick back up, guys.
In the Black community, you hear about people using check cashing versus going to the bank.
Mm-hmm.
You also hear about what's the thing called credit repair. What are your thoughts on that?
So check cashing places, those have I honestly feel that those have been they're kind of like, I don't know, to me, like the the big perm, big worm in the community ripping off our
Yeah,
community,
Yeah.
like coming for
exactly.
them, you know. And a lot of reasons for that is that's based on a lot of systemic racism. So think about it, because we in the Black community and brown communities, we were denied loans from the banks.
Yep.
So you have these hard, these hard loan, places, these that come in here, charge you 20 something percent or what have you off your paycheck, to or take it to your car title. So my thing for that is, and it's tough. I mean, it's really tough because you don't know until you're in that scenario, in that situation. So I can't tell somebody don't go to a bank or what have you's not lending, or if you don't have friends and family. But look, if you're in that situation, definitely start to look for a way out of it. I would definitely not recommend going to a check cash in place because they are over the interest is way over and what a bank loan would be or a personal loan would be. So I would try to avoid it. And like I said, it's kind of the main thing that could help someone start saving money is look at what you're spending on. First rule, I'd say budget. Write a list. For first month, guys, write a list of everything you're spending on. Groceries, your cable, your cell phone bills. When you start writing down what you spend, you can find ways to borrow money from yourself by getting rid of, eliminating. If you're paying $200 for a phone bill, maybe you don't need like unlimited internet or what have you when you have Wi-Fi at home. So you could deduct some of it and bring your bill down to 160. That freed up $140. Maybe you don't need cable because cable, you have 300 channels, but you only watching 2 or 3. Maybe you could, download, like, Reggie knows there's some apps that you can download. So it's about reevaluating what you spend and do a budget. That's another way that you could free up money, is budgeting yourself. See what you spend money on for the month, and then you will see going to work and spending $10, $12, $15 on lunch a day. That's $50, $60 a week. Times that by 4. So you could see that there's a lot of ways that you can free up money. And people don't realize that once you start looking at what you're spending, it's easy to start saving. And that's another way that you can get out from utilizing those check cash in places. And what was the other place you mentioned? You mentioned one other thing.
Credit repair.
Credit repair. So you can pay a company to do it, but like I said, you could also do it yourself. All a credit repair company does is basically write a letter to a credit repair place, either to eliminate or to negotiate. And that's something that you could pick up the phone and you can call the debtor and say, hey, this is what I got. Or, it's either this or nothing, because, hey, it's 7 years and it's off my credit. It's already been 5 or what have you. Or if something's in, like a lot of creditors, people don't realize, buy debt from a bank or what have you, whoever you have that debt with. Well, one, you never signed an agreement with that creditor. So technically, they're not even supposed to have that. You don't really own it. You own it to, let's say, Bank of America, not that creditor. And they sometimes up their fees onto your debt. And you could go ahead and dispute the discrepancy, and it can get removed because the debt to the credit bureaus, all 3 of them, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Thank you. They will write the debtor and say, or collector, and say, hey, can you show us how did you come up to this number? And they have to provide proof. And they sometimes buy the debt without taking the statements or the proof. And if they can't provide it within 30 days, it gets removed from your debt. And nowadays with technology, you can dispute things right online, and it takes 2 seconds, from your phone. So there's no excuse. So instead of paying someone that's going to just do that for you, I would say first attempt to do what you can do yourself. And then when you reach to that hard spot where you can't get past this wall, then go ahead and look, to probably hire a debt consolidator, debt repair person. But you can basically do it yourself, honestly.
And to touch on what he was saying about as far as apps you can download, he was talking about Netflix and Hulu for the FBI that's listening out there. Netflix and Hulu. Got you, right?
No, even I think YouTube has a channel. I mean, YouTube has TV now too.
Yeah, you go.
$59 a month.
Yes.
There's a lot of things.
It's the only ones I know about. It's the only ones I know.
Well, technically, they said that cable is supposed to be free. You're just buying it from the provider. So technically, a lot of those things that you're talking about, they're just giving you access to it. So you're cable
Yeah,
on them is
bro. I'm
supposed to
so
be free.
sad. Netflix and Hulu. I know that's what I'm all about them. Legit stuff.
It's so funny.
Yo, this dude, hey, you can call Reggie and talk about the hell. This dude just send me down the river. Hold on. What happened to you, Reg? I don't know. I invited my brother for financial men's health, and the dude sent me to prison.
I just love the fact that you're like, instead of like pleading the fifth or something like that, you're just like highlighting this so people could actually
I'm
pay
doing
more attention
nothing,
to
bro. I
something that
just
just
said Hulu and
went
Netflix.
over
Yeah.
someone's head. You're just
It
like
didn't go over
literally,
anyone's head. No,
it
it
didn't.
didn't
So
go
you
over
just,
anyone's head. That dude was like, "You
yeah,
can talk
like
to Reg about,
I said, no, I said
this
Reggie, like I said, like Reggie knows about it. You're like, Reggie know about nothing. Like,
nothing,
yeah, exactly. You,
absolutely nothing." So, someone starting off, let's say teenagers, even adults, because we have adults starting off late in life.
Mhm.
What do you suggest typically to build credit? Let's talk about building credit, building um, a portfolio, an investment portfolio. What do you start with? I know real estate's big, but what do you start with? Do you start with a secured card? What do you start with? What do you suggest starting with?
Okay, so two different scenarios. Let's say if somebody's trying to build credit, a teenager, first apply for a credit card. When they're 18, a lot of banks will supply a kid with a credit card. Um, if not, go with a secured. And a secured credit card is not bad. What happens is a bank is just trying to see, before we lend you money, let's see how you spend your own money. So secured credit card, for those who don't know, is basically it's your money that you're borrowing against and you're paying it back. No interest being paid. A bank wants to see how you pay yourself back. And typically after 6 months of doing that, having great behavior and discipline, a bank will then start opening up a line of credit and say, okay, here's your money back. And then here's here's $500 line of credit from us. When it comes to repairing credit, let's say if somebody had bad credit, then going with a secured line of credit, that's a way to go as well. And I know typically a lot of people get approved after they've removed some of their debt and had bad credit. Like a lot of like Capital Ones have high interest rate and have an activation fee, so you're going to have to suffer the consequences for your actions with either secured credit card or credit card with high interest rate and an annual fee or an activation fee of like $40, $60, $100, which is fine because, like I said, there's an end to the means. Just know that it's a process, that it's not something you have to live into your entire life. It's just a stage, a season. So just having that discipline, and then after like 6 months or what have you of having one of those cards, like say one with a fee, like a Capital One, and you're paying it off every month. That's key. Pay it off every month.
Mm-hmm.
Don't use, if you have the cash to buy something, $100, you're gonna buy something that's $50. Buy it and then pay it off right off your phone. Or you could just let it produce a bill and pay it off. Set that money aside. And that's the key. So once they see that it's being reported and they see that you're paying off each month, go ahead and apply 6 months to a year for a credit card, and that doesn't have an activation fee.
Yeah. What about as far as do you recommend them starting off because they get all wrapped up in the high interest like you were talking about, the department credit cards I give out. You go to Old Navy, you go to Macy's, and they're giving you these high interest credit cards. Do you suggest that they just keep their credit card count low and just have one that they consolidate all their debt on, or do you think they should have several credit cards that have like I said, the high interest with the department stores and whatnot?
Well, that's a good question. So I would not do department store credit cards because, once again, a bank is looking to see how you spend. If you get a department store credit card, you're locked into that department store. Some of them just let you use it for Old Navy or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
But having a credit card that's cash, a bank now has an idea like, okay, this mofo is spending it on here. They're going to game thing. They're doing this. They're doing this. They're doing cash advances. Okay, risky. I don't want to. I'm not going to increase their credit line. We're going to keep it there because we don't trust. They see your spending habits. Having 3 credit cards is basically the best way. 3 lines of credit. Let's say if you have a car, you have a credit card at Bank of America. Let's say you have one at your local credit union.
Yeah.
Let's say you have another credit card, because that's the fastest way to build credit. You have 3 different banks reporting credit. Not what people tend to do is they might say that, oh, I have 2 credit cards from Wells Fargo, and I got a car, my auto loan from Wells Fargo. Well, that's great, but it shows us still one thing's reporting credit. Having 3 different separate entities reporting it, it's going to build your credit the fastest.
Gotcha.
It's like a streamline, building credit.
That's good stuff.
And another thing too, for when you mentioned debt, a good way of paying off debt, so a lot of people, let's say if they have let's say 3 or 4 credit cards, they'll start, say they have one that's $5,000, one that's $1,200, 2 that's $1,000, and let's say one that's, I don't know, $800. Which one do you apply the bigger payment to?
You would probably do the one with the smallest amount first.
The bigger payment, the smallest amount you said?
The one that you owe the least
Is
amount.
the least amount?
You start, I would say you start from the smallest to the largest.
Smallest to largest?
Yes.
Reggie?
Me? I would say you go, if it's the least, if it's more, I think isn't it less? So if you have a bigger credit card and you're paying a little bit on there, that's less interest on it, right? Is that what you're trying to, is that what you're saying?
No, which one do you apply the big, if you have you remember credit card 5,000, lowest 800, you have one at 12 and then 2 that's 1,000. What are you paying your extra payments to? Which credit card?
Oh yeah. You pay the extra payments to the oh, you put the extra payments to? I would say the bigger one. That's me. I would say the bigger one.
So what you actually do, and Raymond's correct, it's a snowball effect. So think of a snowball rolling down a hill. We're going to go ahead and take the extra payments. We're going to put it towards the smaller one. Now, because you're going to pay off that smaller one faster. Now you have 4 credit cards to pay. So then you pay to the next one. So it's a snowball effect. And theoretically, you're going to pay off the biggest one last, but it's going to be faster as opposed to paying the bigger one
that has a compound
extra,
interest.
or paying extra to all of them. Pay to the smallest one.
Yeah.
Eliminate that, then put that whole payment into the next ones with the extra. So that's another way of paying off debt faster, guys. And then also what I tell customers, consolidate. The best thing I would tell my clients, take advantage of the 0%. Roll your credit all into one, or if you can, or to 2, take advantage of 0%. But they're like, well, Ricardo, it's for 12 months. I can't. I know, but on that 11th month, go ahead and apply for another one and move it over. And then that way you're paying, and then you're still making your payments, but now you're paying 0%. So now you're paying your payments, all of it's going to principal, and the only interest you paid was the transfer fee of 3 or 5%, whatever it is for on the credit card. So transferring, that's another way, and keep doing it until that interest is that credit card debt's gone. And just have the discipline not charge the credit card.
Yeah.
You should always, before you invest, try to have we always say 6 to 9 months of expenditures, saved. That way, if you invest and you lose your job, you don't have to pull from your investment. You have your payments, your monthly fees, your monthly expenses in your savings, and you're not pulling from your investments in the market.
And when you say 6 to 9 months of expenditure, do you mean 6 to 9 months of you being able to pay all your bills for 6 to 9 months?
Yeah, that's what
your bills and food. Yep. So that's, if you were to lose your job, you're not pulling from your investment, because the thing about that is that, the market goes up, it goes down, it goes up again. It goes up, it goes down, it stays flat, it goes up again. That's the one thing that we could say is guaranteed. No one knows what the market's going to do, but if you lost your job and the market's down, now you've just took a loss, because you're pulling money out your account when the market's down. So having to have that security and in your savings account, that you lose your job, and typically the average person would stay unemployed, we'd say maybe 3-4 months. So they're not using all of that, but within that time they're back working, and then they can go ahead and start rebuilding back that savings account. But it gives that client more stability, more confidence in leaving their funds in the market.
Yeah,
that's emotionally.
Yeah, that's definitely good once they get to that point. Yeah, definitely. Because right now, I mean, I think typically the black family don't, does, I think from what I've heard, invest far as liquid cash, they only have like $10 or
Yeah.
whatever. You know what I mean? So they definitely have to build up that. That's something that's cultural. That's going to have to change so they can
Mhm.
get to a point where it's 6 months that they can actually have savings. But like you said, it's generational because we don't have houses that get passed down generation to generation. We get debt that gets passed down from generation to generation. So you're taking over your parents' tax or something. If you bury them, you're taking over their taxes. You're taking over their burial, their last rites, all that stuff you're paying. So you're not really starting off like you said with a good foot on the right foot. So that's something to definitely aim for. The 6 to 9 months having that security.
Yeah, I agree with Ricardo said. Start off with your kids immediately.
Absolutely.
We uh, talk about with your kids about how to treat people. Talk about
Mm-hmm.
how to make friends, how to socialize. Talk about going to college and stuff. But we don't
Mm-hmm.
talk about how to save,
That
Mhm.
that's because
how to prepare for the future,
yeah, that's because
Yeah.
like you said, we don't know.
how to invest.
We don't know.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
it's funny because we definitely don't talk about things. We definitely don't speak on things we don't know about. And it's for a lack of pride, I think. Because it's like,
Could
I
be
don't know.
it
I
could
don't
be
know. Go ask.
it could be fair too though, because think about it as if, what if you didn't save, or you didn't invest, and you trying to teach somebody something you don't know anything about.
No, I
Mhm.
mean that's a good thing to do, but I'm saying more likely it's almost like your kid asks you something, you're like, I don't know, go ask your uncle. I don't know. Like it's almost like a reflection of yourself. It's almost like a self-realization when your kid's asking you. It's almost because your kid is a spitting thing of you
Right.
asking yourself, hey, how do go get me, it's almost like, oh, I want to go get a bank card. There's a pride there, but there's also like, oh my gosh, do I know, you know what I mean? Let me go get her
Well,
a bank card. Let me go get this. It's what are you gonna say?
let me give you an example. So one of my clients, when I was working at the bank, the banker gave me a client, and he was cashing in some money from 401k, and I told him, hey, I wouldn't cash in this money. Let me show you how to grow it and what you can do with it. In case he was going to put it to his home, I told him, no, let's refinance your home.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then he was telling me, I was like, you know what? I would recommend bringing your son in here. He said he had a son, and I said, yeah, bring your son in here. I'll show him, what I do, and teach him about investing and finance, what have you. And he said to me this. He's like, oh, the funny thing, I talk to my son all the time. I tell him he needs to save his money and not spend it on this, that, and the third. And yeah, but he doesn't listen. And I said to him this example: if I go, do you play sports? He goes, no. I go, so if your son was playing basketball,
Mm-hmm.
or let's say if somebody's playing basketball and you're giving advice, you don't play basketball at all, you know, is that person going to listen to you? He's like, no. If you tell them how to shoot, they play basketball, but you can't shoot a dime, but you tell them how to shoot, like the proper way to shoot. Is he going to listen to you? He's like, why? And he said, no. I said, why? Because I can't, I'm not, I can't shoot, blah, blah, blah. Exactly. You're not saving.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you going to tell your son to save
Exactly.
if you're not doing? Because one thing kids
Yep.
do, guys,
Yep.
is kids are the only thing in this world, before we ruin them, that are the most honest and the most, like, they learn from watching
Yep.
the truest form. It's like, for example, when you hear your kid say, oh, shut up, mom, and you go, and the person's like, who are you telling shut up to? And like, well, I saw you said it to Baba. Well, do as I say, not as I do.
Mm-hmm.
What? Do
Mm-hmm.
as I say, not as I do. So these kids watch and learn. They don't go from what you say, they go from what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you tell a kid, when a kid goes, oh my God, mom, he smells like bologna. Oh, that's not very nice. So we teach kids to lie.
Mm-hmm.
Don't say he smells like bologna. It's going to hurt his feelings. So immediately we're taught to lie and what have you, from our parents.
Mm-hmm.
So the best way to teach your kids is to implement, to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we what I must commend the other side for, people that are, that have knowledge of wealth and finances, and um, have that generational wealth is that they teach their kids the meaning of money and what it means. They teach their kids about savings accounts, and they show the kids about the market, or they're bringing their kids into an investment appointment, or they're show the kids like, hey, this is your savings account, it's growing. You know, I'm going to put this into, where do you like Nike? Okay, we're going to buy Nike. So here for your birthday, I'm not buying you a pair of Nikes. Which stock do you want? You want Nike or you want Reeboks? And then they show them, like, they're teaching their kids, they're getting them involved, because like you stated, Reggie, there's a lack of knowledge. So we don't talk about things we don't know about, or what we talk about is credit. Oh, it's the devil. Stay away from credit. It got your grandma, you know, and she's still in debt. It's just bad, you know. So we teach our kids what we don't understand, to fear it. So instead of that, the approach is, hey, you know what? Let's learn. She needs to be, let's learn this together. You know, you know what? I'm going to meet with a financial advisor. I want you to come along with me. You know, that's how you start. It's first accepting that you do not know, but then accepting, I want to learn. I want to know, you know, and putting that first foot forward, because only then, like I said, once you face it, you can overcome it. It can't overcome you if you face it. But if you run from it, it becomes you. It overpowers you. It owns you. Right. You know what I mean? So the key is to face it, to learn, and like I said, involve your kids with it. I mean, teach your kids about the value of money. Like, we so often don't teach them. I mean, you'll hear like, oh, I paid for this. I worked my butt off for it. Like, Reggie knows our mom used to like send us back to like Wendy's if they put onions on it, and she said no onions. They're like, huh? And she's like, I worked my mom would just take onions. She's like, no, you don't understand. I worked my butt off for that. And then not until you get a job, you understand. Like, when they mess up your order, now we become like, oh no, they put the onions on, you know, and then because you worked your butt off for that money. So it's teaching that the kids the value of money and to respect it. I think us as a community, we don't respect money. You know, and we think idolizing money is the same thing. It's not. You know, there's people who idolize money. We don't respect money, and we kind of mix the two in the one. And because if we respect money, I tell you what, you're not going to spend $400, $500 on some sneakers.
Yep.
You know, after you worked a whole, you know, that's a whole half a day or whatever, or a week, you know, half of your wages. You're not going to go spend it on that if you respect it. You know what I mean? Right. But if you respect money, you're going to have that discipline to say, you know what, I'm going to live I'm going to live, like, when it comes to expenditures, I'm going to spend less, like live less of a, you know, extravagant life now, so I can live a full life later on, instead of trying to do it all, you know, trying to get to the club, trying to spend all your thing and living like you got it. And then you're like, damn, I ain't got the rent, you know, because you want to live like you have it now. And we need to be practicing to live within our means, below our means, so that we could have all that we want later on, and not have to be, 60 years old, past our retirement, saying, welcome to Walmart.
Right.
You know what I mean? We want to be able to work because we want to work at 60, not because we have to. So a lot of people, don't realize. So you hear like Social Security, and people think, oh, I'm gonna have Social Security. Well, they may or may not be around. And Social Security is what you pay in, the taxes that you pay into Social Security. You want to make sure that when you retire, you have a little bit of income from Social Security. Hopefully there's a pension if you're working at some company. The other thing is going to be retirement account, or you have a retirement or investment account, or your own little annuity that you set up, and then you're going to have these little pockets all producing one income. And the goal is, by the time you retire, let's have no debt. So that way, if you're making with Social Security, let's say your Social Security is $500 a month, and let's say with your pension or retirement, you're taking out $1,000 or $1,500, so $2,000 a month. People are like, oh, I can't live off $2,000 a month. Well, if you have no debt, you could live very well off $2,000 a month, and you're taking little pieces while your money's still working in the market. That will take you through to your days, and then you can have a nice full life. The funny thing is that people, as Americans, we spend more time planning the family vacation than we do for retirement.
Wow. I believe
let
it.
that sink in.
It
Yeah,
did.
Let
I
that sink
believe
in.
it.
We spend more time annually on thinking about like where to go on family vacation than our retirement planning. So that there lies the key to success is to plan ahead. We live for today. That YOLO. You only live once. Yes, everyone only lives once. Just like when like,
Mhm.
oh, you're 21, you only turn 21 once. Yeah, you only turn every age once. Doesn't
Yep.
mean that we just live like today's the last day, because it may not be. So yeah, you know, enjoy life, live life, enjoy the present, but know that you want to make sure that if you live beyond you what your dad or your mother or whatever, your family's like age, and everybody's like, oh, that you have enough to live on and then you don't run out of money. You know what I mean? That's the key, is
Right.
to make sure you don't run out of money.
Yeah, that's what happened with
Every time.
yeah, that's what happened with Kate's uh grandma Madge. She outlived her social security and stuff like that, and living in the nursing home, you know what I mean? So and then the debt falls back on
The family.
the family, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so
Well, you don't well, the social security will always be there. You could outlive like if you have a annuity. Some people, if you have annuity, and that's a certain like or retirement, you spend out of your retirement. But typically, social security is going to be there for the rest of your life.
well,
You
I'm saying as far as with her money, like with her not well selling the house so they can get so she can get a nice nursing home. So you outlive that
know.
money, so it's
Mhm.
so that way you can get a good facility that'll take care of you,
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
social secure nursing home that hey you might have bed sores. I mean, we definitely appreciate your time, brother.
Thank you very
I know what
much.
you came in came in short notice and stepped up to the plate. Appreciate that.
And thanks for answering the question about you guys' group. I appreciate that as
I
well.
won't even
It's
be on the show. I won't even be on the show,
guys
bro.
group. The guys
I
group
won't even be on the show, bro.
that
Now we
want to be on
definitely
the show.
appreciate it. I think you've highly yeah, you gave the audience, you gave us something to think about.
You did. You definitely did.
I know Raymond's gonna go home and think about life.
Yeah.
You got this dude over here gonna sit there and
No,
organize a portfolio and everything.
I got young boys and just I got kids, young kids.
I was gonna
So
say, bro,
Yeah.
yeah,
you
I
got
got
young and old kids. You
yeah.
got
But so we always try to preach them about things, but a lot of good tips you gave me tonight. So I'm gonna reevaluate what I've been thinking and include what you've been saying and come up with a game